When one hears the word bats, to many it conjures up images of evil, dark, blood-sucking monsters intent on preying on helpless men, women, and children in regular nocturnal flights of ravenous foraging. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. And as Michigan Magazine has learned, our state is home to the world headquarters of an organization dedicated to correcting the bad rap given the friendly bat through centuries of misunderstanding. On this edition of Michigan Magazine, we head to Haslet, Michigan, and the official organization for bat conservation. Inside, we were quickly introduced to a wide variety of bats of all sizes, from tiny, not-so-menacing-looking vampire bats to large South American fruit bats that were more interested in the offerings of juicy pieces of fruit than to our presents. Our visit to find the true story about bats and their tendencies began when we met co-founder of the nonprofit organization, Kim Williams, who, along with Rob Mize, is on a mission to save bats and their habitats through education.
Well, we were founded in 1990, and we were founded to help protect bats and their habitats. And as you know, a lot of people are really afraid of bats. And so what we do is we do outreach programs with bats that have come from zoos or are permanently injured. And we'll go into schools, libraries, nature centers, and we'll teach people about the benefits of bats.
Oh my goodness, there is a benefit to bats. That's a big misconception from all the old 40s and 50s movies of Dracula and things of that sort, but when someone says you have bats in your belfry or your little batty, it's not such a bad thing to say to them, is it? I mean,
no, not really.
Really. Now, we're in one of the rooms here at the organization's headquarters, and this is what you call a microbat area?
This is our microbat room, yep. This is where we keep all the bats that are found in the United States.
I see.
All the little guys.
So pretty much the little guys are the ones we have here in the United States and in Michigan.
Right.
What's most common in the state of Michigan?
The big brown bat is pretty much the most common in the lower part of Michigan, and the little brown bat is most common on the upper part of Michigan.
I see. Big brown bat, is that still considered a microbat?
Yeah,
Okay.
and the big browns are like this big, and the little browns are about this big.
And you do kind of feature bats from all over the world, don't you, here?
Yes, we sure do. We have a bunch of different programs. One of them is called Bats of the United States, where we feature just the microbats, and then we have another program that's called Bats from Around the World, or it's called the World of Bats, and that one we bring in bats from all different places, Africa, South America, the United States. So. Okay, tell us, what is so great about a bat? What is the good thing about it? Well, bats in the United States are important because they eat so many insects. So one of those big brown bats, they will eat about 600 to 1,000 mosquito-sized insects every hour. So they're really good at eating tons of crop pests. They eat like katydids, tomato hornworms, gypsy moths, mosquitoes, all kinds of things that are really bad for crops and for farmers, and then things that just bug us. So those are important. Bats from other places like Africa, I showed you the big fruit bats. Those guys are important because they pollinate flowers and they disperse seeds. So the bat will eat a piece of fruit in the tropics and will be flying around. It'll spit out the seeds, or it'll defecate, and the seeds will drop to the ground and new trees grow, which is really good. As a matter of fact, some of the plants that we enjoy, like banana trees, bananas, those are pollinated by bats. Avocados, tequila, people like margaritas, we can thank bats for that. So a bunch of different kinds of foods that we rely on. Bats pollinate the flowers for, they disperse the seeds for.
Oh, when you do, you actually, well, there's a fellow looking out there at the camera.
Yeah.
Who is this? Now, this isn't a bat.
We also do programs called Nocturnal Animals. And Riffy, come on out, sweetie. We look at all different aspects of nocturnal animals, like his ears. You can see that they're funnels so that he can hear really well. And look at his big eyes.
He kind of resembles a bat in a way.
Yeah, he does.
A fruit bat.
And actually, some people think that bats evolved from animals like this bush baby. Hi, cutie.
Well, he's got a personality all his own.
He loves Jeremy and I. Right, cutie.
Is it possible that bats have personalities too? Or?
Oh, they definitely do.
Do they?
Especially the fruit bats, the mega bats.
How did you get involved in the organization?
It was because we were doing research work when I was working on my master's. And through the research work, actually I was doing research on the federally endangered Indiana bat. And each year we were misnetting bats. We were catching less and less of them. And we got pretty concerned that other researchers around the world were finding that there were less and less bats too, and actually 40% of all bats are endangered or threatened. So we founded the organization to help alleviate some of that. And a lot of bats die because of people killing them, They go into like places bats are hibernating, and they'll destroy millions of bats at one time by setting off firecrackers.
And that's pretty much the endangered, why it's so much endangered, because of humankind, right? I mean,
oh yeah, habitat destruction, and then people killing them.
Just ignorance of what a bat is all about, or just the misconception is pretty much it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, pesticides, pesticide poisoning, but pretty much habitat destruction, and then people purposely killing bats.
So do you find a little more understanding now that you got the program going, people are kids, you try to pretty much target the kids? Or? Yeah,
you know, I think it's easier with kids because they don't have the misconceptions already, but we do a lot of adult programs as well. And it seems when we first started, we would do the adult programs and most all the adults would just be really frightened of bats. Now when we do the programs, a lot of adults are still afraid of bats, but they're really starting to realize more that bats do good things. And in our programs, we stress like the importance of bat houses, but we tell them, you know, you don't have to love bats, it's okay. Just don't be afraid of them and realize that they're really important for the environment. That's all we ask. With the kids, what we try to do is talk a little bit about you can be a scientist as well. If you're interested in bats, here are the different things that you can get into. You know, study your biology, do good in reading and math, and you can get into biology too and study cool things, not only just bats, but they could study, you know, lions and tigers and just different things that they're interested in.
Yeah, I do see a lot of bat houses going up in places. This is something that a lot of people are understanding, that they do have a lot in common with pest control. I mean, this is something that's going on more and more, I think.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are trying to get away from spraying their backyards. They want to do natural things instead. So I think the bat houses, that's another reason why the bat houses are doing so well.
As Kim guided us from one enclosure to another filled with bats, the anxiety that we felt about those nocturnal creatures began to fade. Still, we knew that we shouldn't be too complacent about the little critters, since they are naturally wild animals and one shouldn't ever attempt to pick one up or try and domesticate bats, which is illegal anyway. Even though Kim felt at ease in picking up each and every one of the bats, we stress she is a trained professional, and bats, like any other mammals, are capable of carrying the rabies virus. The incidence of bats with the virus, again, is another huge misconception. On an average, less than 0.5% of wild bats tested have carried the rabies virus, and the catching of this virus is being through bitten by the little fellas, which are naturally timid creatures, but may bite when they feel threatened. The usefulness of bats in the wild hugely outweighs the threat of rabies. As I watched Kim handle the bats with ease, I was struck by their timidness and their natural tendencies to avoid human contact, which shattered another misconception, that being that they love to fly into long hair. No such proof here. But there was one more misconception I had to clear up for myself, that being the reputation of the notorious vampire bats.
Well, vampire bats are bats that are only found in Central and South America, so we don't have to worry about them in the United States at all. They're small bats. They're only about this big, and occasionally in Central and South America they will bite people and drink their blood. They only drink blood, but mostly they drink the blood of livestock. It's pretty rare to have a vampire bat bite a person. What they do is, let's say there's like a sleeping chicken, the bat will fly in, it'll land a couple feet away from the chicken, and then the vampire bat is actually really interesting. It'll do something that no other bat can do. It'll actually get up on its hind feet and it will tiptoe over to the chicken, kind of like a little ballerina, so it doesn't wake the chicken up. And then their front two teeth are really sharp, so they'll make a little tiny incision, almost like a paper cut. And they'll use their tongue and they lap up a small amount of blood. It's only about this much, about a tablespoon, sometimes 2 tablespoons worth, and then they fly away. So the chicken doesn't die, it probably doesn't wake up, doesn't turn into a vampire chicken afterwards.
Well, that is good news. Kim was quick with squashing a lot of misconceptions that day. Another one being bats have terrible eyesight. Hence the saying, blind as a bat. Well, actually, they can see quite well, with eyesight comparable to many other mammals. Kim was literally a walking, talking encyclopedia devoted to bats.
So these are called pallid bats. And these bats are really interesting. They're found in the Southwest. They actually eat scorpions and tarantulas. These guys do echolocate, but they rely more on their hearing. So if you can imagine, they're looking for things found on the ground, like a scorpion or a tarantula, so they're actually listening for the little footsteps of the tarantula. So she would be high up in a tree, listening for little footsteps of a tarantula or a cricket, so her hearing has to be exceptionally well. And I can very gently pull out one of her wings, so you can see how beautiful a bat's wing is. Bats are actually in their own order of animals called Chiroptera. So a lot of people think that bats are rodents. They're not, they're in their own order. Chiroptera is a Greek word. In English it means hand, wing. And when you look at the wing of a bat, it's essentially the same as a human hand. A bat has a thumb, yep, a first, a second, a third, and a pinky finger.
What if bats fascinate you? Kim tells us that you may become part of their organization and conservation efforts by becoming a member of their nonprofit educational organization, or if your club, group, or organization wishes a live presentation, that can be arranged too, simply by contacting them in Haslet, Michigan, or logging on to their website at www.batconservation.org. Well, Kim, what do we have here?
Well, I'd like to present the museum with a couple of things. First of all is one of the bat houses that the Organization for Bat Conservation makes.
Oh, wonderful.
This is a book that I wrote called Understanding Bats. Actually, it was written by myself and Rob, the other director. And this is our video that just won the Communicators Award for Education.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much, Kim. And we'll display this with a place of honor in our museum to let people know about the work of the Organization for Bat Conservation. Again, we thank you for being on Michigan Magazine and keep up the great work.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.